Oh, fireworks. Lovely.
You save her and forgive her, and I don't know how you do it, 'cause I always make it through it. I don't know how you do it.
The supporters and I are out here not because we favor censorship, but because we support safety and decency inside our city limits. This is for the children.
The thing that galls me is we made considerable improvements. We put in restrooms and toilets.
Try again, Jerry. Only this time wait until I'm in a safe place.
Most of those workers don't have inside plumbing in their own homes.
And now they're wanting these respiratory devices to strain the dust over my dead body. You have any inkling how much that would cost?
Do you see what they look like, the workers? Poor hygiene's pellagra and hookworm.
And then there's all this talk about bisonosis.
What's that? Sounds disgusting.
Brown lung, cotton lung.
What does that mean?
It's a lung disease.
Grape
God.
juice.
Oh, can't never wash out grape juice.
Now I remember. You're the young man who bled all over my living room.
Hey, this is Pamela Doritis, and welcome to this episode of Call Time Atlanta. And what we just saw was Shannon Eubanks and her assorted dimwits. And we're sitting in Shannon's home, which is a very beautiful home in Marietta, Georgia. And Shannon, if you want to say hello to the audience.
Hi, guys.
Shannon, where are you from originally, and how did you get to Atlanta?
Born in Charleston, South Carolina, raised in the South, went to work in Los Angeles. After working all over the country in theater, I hit LA at 24, worked out of LA for 18 years, was hired to work for ABC in New York for 3 years of that. And then my husband came down here to shoot a miniseries and said, we have spent our whole lives flying through Atlanta, and it's gorgeous here. And we came down and looked for a house and bought the house, and here we are.
Tell me about your background. You have a very interesting educational background, which led into your being in the entertainment industry.
I was pre-med, and
Were you going to be a doctor? Is that what you wanted to?
Well, I was going, it was communications or medicine, and someone dared me to go over an audition for the theater department because they said it was the most terrifying experience you'd ever had because the head of the theater department looked like God, and he did. He looked just like God. He sounded just like God. It was very frightening. Anyway, ended up getting cast and starting to do that and became dual track with performing arts and went that way, and my parents lost a doctor and eventually got over it.
But same thing happened to my parents.
Okay.
They lost a lawyer, but you know, they love me anyway.
I have parents who are angry at me for people who are on a track and they come over to see if they would like to do a little acting for fun and end up going into the business. And yeah.
So you're ruining other people's kids too.
I'm ruining other people's kids too. Yeah.
And that actually led to you developing your teaching technique, which
Well,
is again very unique.
I didn't intend it to be that way, but when I was studying film technique, you hit a wall. You're working on something and you go, this process works for me, and then all of a sudden there's something you don't have tools for. And so when an acting technique wasn't working for me, neuroscience was, and that sort of became integrated into the way that I teach. Looking at the layout, when people are coming in and going, okay, I want an integrated approach, and there are lots of different approaches and acting methodologies, and they all work for some people, and the key becomes what works for you,
Right.
because it's not the technique that's at fault, it's what works for you. So initially, an awful lot of people have a problem being able to break down a script and do analysis. And you can talk to every teacher here in town and they'll give you a good concrete way to break down a script and figure out what's going on and what to say. But the next step is, I understand this, but I can't feel it. That's where what I'm teaching comes in. And it has to do with right brain, left brain, your left brain doing the analysis, and your right brain being the creative and intuitive side that has empathy for people and is emotionally moved by situations not your own. And so my approach found a really practical way to engage that. that has to do with the kind of visualization that you do, because that right side of your brain is nonverbal and it doesn't respond to being told to do things.
Right, right. So can you just go, I know you have specific steps.
Steps?
Can you go through those?
Funny names, or what they are, or
Well, what they are. What they are.
Everybody does an analytical step, which is silent, which is objective, from your objective mind. And then I have a step that's just called one for nothing, where you begin to speak, but it has nothing to do with the way that you're ultimately going to perform. Because what you're actively doing is seeing from your point of view, as though you were in the scene, what the other character is doing. You're reading their body language.
Right.
When you give yourself permission to make up anything, we never make up things that don't have significance for us.
Right. Yep.
So people do this because it's like a silly game and find they're being tremendously having these emotional responses to what's going on, and they don't know why. But it's a gateway to connection. In psychology, the way you're sitting, standing, moving is also completely tied into your emotions, because since you've been on the planet, when you have a particular emotion, you're experiencing particular physical sensations. And if you imagine the physical sensations, the emotion immediately follows.
Right. I remember when I was doing a scene with you, I had to play a drunk woman. I remember you telling me a certain way to breathe and to move slightly in the chair, to almost disorient myself.
Be balanced on your tailbones.
Right, right.
And start feeling like a gyroscope.
That
sort of slight. And you start feeling
and
heady.
it worked, yeah.
You start feeling high.
Right, yeah.
That's the kind of thing that I'm talking about.
I was able to do a good...
I mean, this all sounds terribly, terribly esoteric, but it's actually, you know, because you've done it,
right.
pretty straightforward.
Yes.
It's like I have a series of steps I go through, and they come out good film acting as opposed to good stage acting, or it's even tweaked slightly because different aspects of film are different. Commercials are different, industrials are different, sitcoms are different, soaps are different.
How would that differ from your technique for, do you teach people stage acting as well, or do you only teach? Okay.
Oh yeah, but that's an entirely separate thing. Because the requirements are different.
Let's talk about the guard dog.
Okay.
That is something integral to your technique. What is the guard dog?
What is the guard dog? The guard dog is problematic, is what the guard dog is. Your left brain, which is wonderful for analysis, is also the seat of the voice in your head that talks to you when you're trying to work and says things like, this went better yesterday, director looks bored, my foot's asleep, all of that. And you can't make it go away, because the more you try to tell it to leave you alone, the more it tightens up and says, yes, why should I leave you alone? Part of what my technique is in your prep process, giving your right brain, the creative side, a task for the guard dog to perform, because that's what it likes to do. It likes to solve crossword puzzles and accomplish things for you. While it's doing that, the right side of your brain can come out and start to begin to mesh with the material.
Hi, my name is Russ Ivey. I'm the founder of the Metropolitan Atlanta Theater Awards. The MAT Awards was founded in 2004 with the intention of recognizing community and non-union professional theater around the metro area of Atlanta. This year we're celebrating our 6th annual MAT Awards ceremony, which will be held on Sunday, August the 19th at the Roswell Cultural Arts Center. We invite all of you to come out. You can get tickets online at matawards.com, that's M-A-T awards.com. And this year we are celebrating 18 theater companies around the metro area, and we look forward to seeing you out there.
Let's go back to talking about your background, because I know that aside from being a very versatile actress, you've had a lot of different experience. You're director, you're writer, producer, you've done basically everything there is under the sun.
Yes, underfoot in show business.
So can you give me some highlights of your career?
Oh God, there are so many. I love playing funny villains. Because they're all around us. And I say funny villains are often people who don't know that they're villains, but they make other people's lives miserable because they're sort of narcissistic. And one of my favorite ones in doing that, getting to work and make Gary Cole's life a living hell on an ABC movie called Pop Rocks.
And we actually have a clip of that, which we're going to show.
Are you going to show that?
We are going to show that clip because you're hilarious. I
Okay,
love
are you going to show it now?
Yes, we're going to show it now.
Okay.
Is that okay?
That's okay.
All right. So let's take a look.
Oh, Dagger, I had to see you. What you said was very moving, but deep down I know you're just as naughty as I am.
No, what you see is what you get.
Oh, here, I wrote my number on my bra. It's my private line. You can call me anytime.
I'll do that first chance I get.
No, Dagger, I can't wait. I have wanted you ever since I saw you open for Van Halen in '82.
But it's not really the time nor the place. You were at a Van Halen concert?
What about in the back of your minivan?
What? The seats don't fold down. Stupid, I know, but it was extra. But I've really got to go, Helen.
How do you know my name?
It's written on your bra. I'm sorry, could you hand me that boot, please?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
So that was Pop Rocks with Gary Cole.
With Gary Cole, ABC Family Channel. Yeah.
And what was your character? Can you explain that character a little bit more?
Helen Hunt was Gary Cole's boss's wife, who is running for political office. And Gary Cole had a secret identity because he was a nice man who worked at a bank, and even his wife and his kids did not know that he had been a glam rocker back in the day. His kids are moving into the expensive, there's college coming and all of that age, and he is offered a chance to get the group back together. So with the elaborate makeup, he's trying to pull this off without anybody finding out it's him.
Right.
Unbeknownst to him, his buttoned way too tight boss's wife, who's running for political office, had a major case of the hots for him back when he was a glam rocker, and is finally overcome by delayed lust,
Right.
I guess is what it is, and that's what that scene was about.
Great. And there was another, we're going to show a clip of this as well.
Okay.
Of you in the Margaret Mitchell story. And so that is like the polar opposite to me.
Very elegant.
Of the funny
truly
villain.
Refined, truly elegant. Not quite as funny a villain, but she's very much a product of her time because this was during the Gibson Girl era, and race relations were way on back there.
Let's take a look. What was your character's name in that?
Mrs. Cathcart, Amanda Cathcart, who was the doyen of Atlanta society back in that time period, and was riding herd on Margaret Mitchell, who was quite young at the time.
Amanda Cathcart in the Margaret Mitchell story.
Right.
Margaret.
I prefer to be called Peggy now.
Peggy.
Well, yes, I think it suits me better. It's more up to date.
Oh, well then, Peggy. I have heard a most disquieting thing. The manner in which you're performing your community service as a provisional for the Junior League.
Yes.
And that you're volunteering at a colored hospital.
The Washington Negro Hospital. Well, they need help so badly. And Mama helps send their doctor
It
to
is
college.
one thing to give money to the coloreds as your mother did, my dear.
Mama did more than just send money.
You are not your mother, Peggy. You are a young woman, and it is unseemly. I'm sure we can find a suitable charity for it.
We were talking about highlights of your career and moments that are the most memorable for you. And you mentioned there were moments that you had an impact on someone else or some other people.
And you don't even know that you're doing it. And that ends up being some of the most rewarding things that will happen to you over the course of your life. And two examples, I was doing a play one time, Chekhov play, playing a character who's very shy and awkward and rather graceless. And at the end of the performance, the architect of the theater I was performing in and his wife came backstage in tears and said that this had changed their lives in terms of their relationship to their daughter, that they were fairly socially prominent people, and they were pushing their daughter to be launched into society, and she was a very, very shy girl. And seeing the play had made them realize that they needed to allow her to be what she was and not some idealistic form of what they would like her to be, that her path might be different than theirs. That was big. Another time, I did a soap opera for ABC. And that was a series regular, Loving. Yeah, and was on that. I was in the original cast of that. And we used to do these charity benefits. And there was a kerfuffle behind me, and I looked, and the security guards were trying to stop this very young woman from coming up from the back of the table to talk to us. I'm doing a soap opera about a woman with a philandering husband, and I had just kicked my philandering husband out of the house and, you know, stood up for myself. And she said, you know, when you did that with Roger, she said, I'm not in the same situation your character's in. I got pregnant when I was 16 years old. I'm 19 years old, and I have 3 kids. Wow. And I had an abusive husband, and I thought that that was what my life was going to be. But when you threw Roger out of the house, I left my husband, and I moved back in with my parents, and I'm going back to school, and I'm getting my GED, and I'm going to make a life for myself now. And I mean, I still get... Yeah.
I'm getting all the honesty.
I mean, it was absolutely wonderful. And this is doing, you know, a soap, which is lots of fun, but you don't consider it to have great artistic significance. Right. But it changed her life, and that kind of stuff stays with you.
And that is just I guess, a lesson that we can all learn about the roles that we take as actors.
Don't judge them.
Don't judge the roles.
Don't judge the role.
What are the differences that you see between the LA entertainment community and Atlanta?
Well, specific to actors, it's been really interesting lately because I've had clients who are in from Los Angeles shooting a project, and they'll have a big audition, so they have to be, you know, filmed, and it's got to be sent to their agent out on the West Coast. And I've gotten to see who's out there, who's living out there and is working, and how does it stack up to here. And the primary difference, because we have a lot of talented actors here in town, as a blanket statement, is pure technical, some specific technical skills. For instance, doing an audition in a scene which has what I call a multiple focus. The person, it's their single, they're on camera, but they're speaking to 3 or 4 other people. You've got one reader, so the voice is coming from one spot, and I noticed that the people who are in from Los Angeles automatically talk back and listen to multiple focus points as they're doing the scene. I mean, I don't have to tell them. They just do it. And it's something that I teach here, and I've always taught here, but it's not automatic. And I think what it does when you're screening tapes, and directors are screening tapes, or casting directors, and they're looking at callbacks, that kind of thing demonstrates a level of professionalism. Technical facility.
Even though there may be one other person in the room with you,
if you're talking to 3 people, you need to have a different visual relationship with each of the people, and that becomes tricky because the sound's only coming from one spot, and we tend to look to where the sound is. So in your prep process, you have to have rehearsed literally that this line is coming from Fred, who's over there, and that line is coming from Myra, who's over there. And that you're talking to Myra and Fred interrupts. Do you see what I'm saying? So that you're going back and forth. There's nobody there but the one person. Yeah.
I did not think of that, I'm ashamed to say, but I will remember that now.
That's just an example, is in the casting process, giving the people who are making the decisions a sense of security about you. That you're going to, you know what you're doing. You're going to get on the set. Do you know what I mean? It's not just who did the nicest job. Because if I'm looking at 2 different wonderful auditions, and one of them has been around a long time and other things are equal, you're going to gravitate, and there are exceptions, but you're going to gravitate to the person who's been around a long time. Because you feel safe. So this kind of little tiny thing can add to a sense of security on the part
That's
people
very
who are
good
looking
to
at
know.
your audition.
What advice would you have for Atlanta actors as to how we can raise our game? You talked about technical skill, so that's one thing.
Technical skills, one of the things that we have an advantage here, and your agent will say, well, but I'm not going to get paid for this for you to do indie prod. And there's indie prod, and you've done some of that. And indie prod, there is some that is beautifully, beautifully shot, beautifully done stuff. And there's some that you're in the middle of, and you go, I'm doing a garage movie. I don't think I'm going to get any footage off of this one. But the simple act of shooting that starts to increase your comfort level and your knowledge of the business, not just about the acting, but how do you interface with your crew?
Right.
How can you help them that you know to ask what the frame is,
right,
so that you're not violating frames, so that they don't lose a shot because of your lack of experience. And indie prod can help you start doing that.
Sure. Yeah.
Your comfort level on the set. And the other things is finding out what are these technical things that people know and start mastering them.
Yes. You have an interesting take on doing under fives.
Yeah. First of all, know which kind of under fives it is, because some under fives are simply there for the simplest possible exposition, or as I say, it really is all about, do you want fries with that?
Right.
That's all it is.
Right.
It has no more significance.
And you're not there to embellish it.
You're
just
not there to
deliver.
embellish. You're there to serve the baseline background of the script.
Right.
And probably the person with the most interesting look is going to get the part. But if it's one of those under fives where it has significance to, say, one of the leads in the project, like they are forming an opinion of the environment based on their brief interaction with this person, then you can get a little bit creative. But you have to kind of know yourself.
Yes.
And the for instance that I used is going in to read for a member of a pole dancing club. Movie that was shot here recently. It was Billy Crystal part. And
I don't care what anybody says. I want to see you pole dance.
well, my decision on it was to not be good at pole dancing.
Right.
And
the script didn't call for that, right? That was your...
No, they didn't delineate.
Right.
He just walks in, and there's one of the larger characters was a member of a pole dancing club, and they did have women of all age ranges and types and whatnot in the pole dancing club. So I just decided that I would suck. Well, the problem becomes you're going to put this on tape at your agents. There's not going to be a pole. Do you know what I mean? And it's a little short scene where pretty much everybody's doing their thing, and Billy Crystal would walk in and we would all greet his character. So I worked out how to be really bad at pole dancing using a chair. And that's all I needed was the back of a chair.
Right.
So that I could do certain things very well, but then get stuck because, the joints are a little older and you can get into a position you can't get out of it, but you would like to, that they could do with the kind of framing that they could do simply at the agency and do it. And that, if you know that this can be fun, then feel free to start getting creative.
Thank you so much, Shannon, for talking to me today and being on the show. I really appreciate the advice you've given to everybody.
Oh, this was fun, sweetie.
Yeah, it's been great. And thank you again for letting us shoot in your lovely home in Marietta, Georgia. I mean, I come here and I'm like, God, I want to live here. It's great.
That's the idea.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Come and relax.
So I really appreciate it.
Fantastic, sweetie.
Great. So this has been Call Time Atlanta, and you can check us out on Facebook. We have a Facebook page, facebook.com/calltimeatlanta, or at www.calltimeatlanta.com. And we're also on Twitter, and as you might guess, the Twitter handle is @CallTimeAtlanta. So check us out online, and thank you again to Shannon Eubanks.